Welcome to Unscripted with Russo. For our podcast, we decided to explore the people behind the narratives. I'll introduce decision makers and influencers and find out the intimate story behind their rise to success. Welcome to another episode of Season 4 of Unscripted with Russo. I'm Ashley Russo, and I am here with Edith Gutierrez-Hawbaker. She's the creative director and founder of Te Lo Juro Collective. Edith, I'm so glad to have you here.
Hi, Ashley. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be part of the show and to have a chance to speak with you one-on-one today.
Well, I know everybody's going to want to know more about your journey because you have so many interesting things going on. You have an interesting background. You have this unbelievable creative director career and artistic career. And so we want to get to all of that, but I want to start first by talking about where you grew up. You grew up in Argentina, and yes. A little bit about that upbringing. What was your family life like? How well do you remember Argentina?
So I was born in Buenos Aires, and we came back to the States when I was a very young girl. My family migrated to North Jersey, so I was raised in Elizabeth, New Jersey. My parents got divorced at a young age. So as a child, I had very little memory, but as an adult, I've now created these new beautiful memories of Argentina for myself and my family as well.
Was the culture alive in your home? Like, was your mother very proud of her Argentinian heritage? What kind of foods did you eat? Tell me about the traditions.
Absolutely. So we were raised in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and it was a very proud immigrant, first generation, second generation community. And so in our house, we absolutely kept all the Argentinian traditions going on, right? My mom taught me Spanish and Castellano, and we baked empanadas all the time, and we had the chimichurri and the dulce de leche. So all those great, wonderful foods were carried on. And now I teach my son how to make empanadas and so forth. So that was wonderful. The great thing about living in Elizabeth was that my best friend was Cuban, my other best friend was Costa Rican, my other best friend was Ecuadorian. So I had a chance to sample all these delicious foods and learn about their individual cultures in the Latinx community too. So I really embraced that. And we all just kind of taught each other these great little family recipes, and to this day share those recipes amongst each other.
Kind of one of the greatest things about being part of a diverse culture. I know that my kids were able to go to a really diverse school, and I love that because all different types of people are flowing through your life and sharing those traditions. My daughter's best friend growing up was Chinese, and she had Chinese New Year every year. And it was always something you just started to look forward to, and you learn a little bit more each year. And, those are the kinds of things I think that add so much sort of depth to your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and our family, especially, embracing that diversity is super important, right? And we teach our son to continue to embrace all the cultures. And we have a dear friend, and she just taught us her homemade Korean dumpling recipe.
Was that so good?
It's to die for. So it's wonderful. So we have empanada parties at my house, and at her house, we have Korean dumpling parties.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I love potluck. My kids' school used to do an international day, and it was kind of like our favorite day of the year because everybody would bring dishes from their country or their heritage, and it's always amazing and delicious too. So tell me a little bit about being raised by a single mom, and what kind of lessons did you learn? What did you see her do to sort of create this new reality for you and your sister?
So first of all, shout out to abuela, for being an amazing mom. So my mom's super fierce, super hardworking, and really instilled those values in us early on. And just the idea of persevering, right? And so that was so great to see her working so hard and instilling true values that a lot of the immigrants who come to this country have, right? So really teaching us how to respect ourselves and to respect other cultures and to celebrate who we are. I was able to then just flourish in areas like in New York City, where I embraced other cultures, and it made sense for us to be able to take those values and instill them in our child too, moving forward.
What kind of kid were you? What were you into? Were you into sports, music, art? What were you like?
Yeah, so I was a tomboy growing up. I was a big tomboy, and I was also really creative. So I had this like juxtaposition, like where I would like skate during the day and ride bikes. And we grew up in Elizabeth, which is definitely like an urban inner city area, but we were outside the entire time. So and I was really into drawing, so I'd come home and draw all the time. But I also was like a little entrepreneur even back then. Like, so since my mom was single mom, we always hustled to make some extra money, a little platita here and there. And she used to have this job where we would take shower curtain hooks and we would put them into like a dozen, like in a container, and pack it away. Like, so if you went to like Bed Bath & Beyond, you get some shower curtain. So we would do those as a family, would watch TV and so forth. So I took one of those little shower curtain hooks and I started wearing them as bracelets, right? And like switching up the colors. And then the kids in my class were like, "Where did you get those bracelets?" And I was like, oh, these things. So I started selling them for like a
That's
quarter.
amazing.
All the girls in the elementary school rocking these like shower hook containers. So I was just like repurposing and kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit like early on without knowing it. But
I love it. I absolutely love that. I used to, I had a group of kids in the neighborhood. I was about 8 or 9, and we called ourselves Kids Incorporated. And we used to get dressed up and we would go door to door pretending we were in real estate or something and like asking if they wanted to sell their house. I mean, it was so bizarre. And I think back and I'm like, why were these kids following me around doing this bizarro job? But it was the beginnings of sort of leadership, team building.
I love that. Yeah. It's just so funny.
I was always selling something, always. Like I always had, I used to go into, and I am the least creative, crafty person. Honestly, I'm just not artistic, but I would always have the idea. And so I would buy like those little boxes. I forget what they're called. They're that really thin wood that you can get like from a Michael's. And
oh yes.
yeah, and I'd like paint them and get my sisters to paint them, and then we'd sell them as I mean, they were ugly and horrible. I don't know who was buying these things from us.
I love that passion and that drive. Like, and that's, raised by a single mom, I learned drive, right? I learned to be passionate.
I think, I don't know how your mom was, but my mom, I think, was just like grateful that my energy was being channeled into something.
Yes.
Like, yes, go do, stop talking to me.
Exactly. It was like grateful when I was outside doing all the actually like the little sports that I was into. And then so happy that I was channeling my energy into creativity, right? And entrepreneurship.
Oh, so that was kind of like your first job, but did you have any first jobs that you want to share that you worked somewhere in town or that you did that you can remember?
And at school, I was always in the gifted and talented program and focused on arts and music and creativity. And so my first job was tutoring, right? Tutoring some younger students. And that eventually led to me becoming an educator as well. So it's interesting, like that even as a young child, I really enjoyed like mentoring. And that's been such a passion of mine. And I was just thinking about the two things. I was like, oh, in 3rd grade, I became an entrepreneur. And by the 5th grade, I was tutoring. And I was like a teacher then. So I loved school. I loved sports. I had lots of energy, and my mom just really embraced it. And she made sure that I believed in myself no matter what I did. And I mean, as corny as that sounds, that really gave me like strength, right? And so even though we did not grow up with a lot of, we grew up like, really poor, right? And so economically it was challenging for us, but that didn't affect who I was or how big my dreams were at all, right?
I love that she sounds like she never made you think you were less than anyone else. Like that you could do it. Do what you want to do, get it done, get out there.
Yeah. So she taught me to own who I was and to celebrate it, right? Like those dreams are valid, and they can be as big as you want them to be, and you can accomplish anything. And she really she instilled that early on. She definitely so that was so great when I became, was tutoring early on. And then and then I moved on from tutoring, I moved on to like being a little cashier. And then, I enjoy again, and it was like for Mandy's. So I was into fashion even then, like back in the day. So that was great. And then, went on to art school. I went to FIT and I had this great experience there studying
Well, I
abroad.
want to talk about that for a second, because was that always an expectation or a thought that you would go to college? I mean, was that something that your mom had established for you? Is it something you established for yourself?
That's an excellent question. So I was the first in my family to graduate high school, to get up my bachelor's and my master's as well. So yes, it was expected.
Chills. I just think that's so, I just want to take a minute and celebrate that, because I think we forget sometimes, like that's just, it's just an amazing accomplishment. And, you know, my husband's the first to go to college, and we talk all the time. I've said this on this podcast before, but it comes up so often. You know, he's like, I didn't have a roadmap. My parents didn't know what to fill out or print or do, you know, there was none of that. I just did it. And I'm like, I don't understand. It's amazing. So kudos to you. And how did you find FIT? I mean, what an awesome school, and New York City, but like kind of a big adventure, right? I mean, I would imagine like an immigrant's daughter saying, the mother like being like, wait a second. You're going to do what?
So we grew up just outside the city. We were about like 13 miles out. And so I started taking the train when I was like 13, 14, going into New York.
Metro Park?
And
or
so,
railway?
no, so but Elizabeth, like NJ Transit, right?
Yeah, but you went through Elizabeth or through like Metro Park?
Yeah, through Elizabeth.
Okay.
So, yep. So we went Elizabeth, Newark, right into Penn Station. So super quick and super easy. We took the PATH train all the time. And the energy in the city was just like, I was in sync with it, right? It was like, every time we went to a different art show, or we would go check out a live show. And I realized it was there where I can like flourish, right? And so we had this amazing program. It was an inner city school where we grew up in, but they invested in the arts, and that provided an outlet for so many students, not just myself. And my art teachers really just kind of focused in on my skill set early on. And they said, listen, we see something in you. You can do this for a living. Like, you can go to art school, you can be successful. And they helped me speak to my mom about that, right? Because I think what happens is when you're a first generation student and first generation American, the expectations are you maybe have one of these like jobs, like you'll grow up to be an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor or so forth. But my mom, I think early on just knew that wasn't necessarily my path. And instead of squashing it, she embraced it. And my art teachers really spoke to her about the possibilities of commercial arts and success. And, and she just said, I want you to follow your dreams. I want you to be passionate. And
what a gift, right? I mean, what a gift. You have mentors early on who believed in you and showed you that there was a path. And I think that's a really important message for everybody out there, really, because often we create these boxes that are so small and it doesn't give people breathing room. I have kids that are about to launch to college, and this concept that I'm like, listen, if you find you love history, like study history, you can figure the rest out later, but do something that fills your soul a little bit, challenges you, teaches you to be a critical thinker and a good world citizen. But I don't know what that means. Like, maybe you love geology. I don't know.
Yeah.
And in a box, but I don't know that everyone says that.
And that's amazing as a mom that you're doing that for your children, definitely. Because I think what happens is people just feel like if their child the students go into arts, they're just not sure about the success rate. But I just found it like, the more passionate you are about what you are doing in your life, the more success you will have, right? And then the more purposeful your careers are, the more meaningful your life is. And so, going to FIT it made sense to me. And so I studied graphic design in FIT, not fashion, but both of my worlds those worlds kind of came together later on in my life.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to hear about how all those worlds collided and this amazing career that you have built from New York out to here in the Lehigh Valley. So stay tuned. You're listening to Unscripted with Russo. As a mother of two, I know it can be tough to find activities that everyone will enjoy. Luckily, the Lehigh Valley has so many ways to treat your family without breaking the bank.
You can experience cool discoveries at the Da Vinci Science Center or all aboard the WKNS Railroad train for an afternoon adventure. There's fun around every corner of the Lehigh Valley, and you can uncover it all on Discover Lehigh Valley's website. Visit discoverlehighvalley.com for more information.
Welcome back to Unscripted. I'm being joined by Edith Gutierrez-Hawbaker, and she is the creative director and founder of Te Lo Juro Collective, but she has done so many amazing things. And we're going to get to Te Lo Juro because I want to talk about all the things you're doing to bring love and diversity and acceptance through art and through graphics. But we left off talking about your education at FIT. I want you to tell us a little bit about your journey and where it took you studying graphic arts in Manhattan and what that looked like for you.
Super exciting time to be in New York and, discovering who you were and as an artist and as a person. After FIT, I spent about 15 years in the editorial world, in the publishing world, and that was wonderful. I started at Entertainment Weekly, and I've worked at publications like Real Simple and Business Week and Organic Life out here in Rodale. But so about 5 years into my art director career, I realized that I was always mentoring the interns that would come through the office. And some people just didn't have any time for them, but I felt really passionate about these young designers and giving back to them. And so I decided to slowly get my master's degree while I was working in the city. So as I was working as an art director, I was also on the back end, having a little freelance career and getting my master's slowly. So fast forward about 10 years, one class at a time, talk about perseverance. It was time to either start teaching or stay on this wonderful editorial career I had. And I decided to jump ship and start teaching in Montclair, New Jersey as an art educator. And I loved it. I loved it. It was so fantastic. The energy I had. So it was so great. It was hard to leave the editorial world, but like this new journey was so exciting, like picking up the energy from all the students and just how creative they were. It was fantastic. So I did that for a number of years before I landed back in the editorial world again.
For people who may not be familiar of what goes into being an art director and in the creative world of editorial, can you just paint us a little bit of a picture of what does that look like? So somebody opens a magazine, right? So everyone has done that. What role are you playing in what we are seeing and experiencing in that magazine?
So that's a good question. So working at a magazine is all about collaboration, right? Like, so the magazine is not, it's like, if you are not a team player, I would say editorial is not the place for you. I am a visual storyteller. So someone would come to me with a story and we would then, between the editor and myself, discuss the ways we can actually tell this story, right? Would it be through photography or illustration or a combination of, and now video, right? Like that's obviously included. And so it was really the journey of finding out the best approach to this visual storytelling and then hiring creatives and BIPOC creatives for that matter, whenever I could, to help me execute that vision.
I think it's interesting because it's evolved so much from getting like a paper publication that people would open to, like you said, digital content creation and social media. And there's so much creativity that goes into that, whatever the medium is. And you've kind of evolved with that. So you talk about you leave and you teach for a while and you have such a passion for that, but you end up back in this world at like a completely different time. Like things have changed so much. So what did you find when you came back into the editorial world, and what kind of lessons had you learned that maybe you brought forward with you?
Oh, that's a good question. So I when I left, it was really print focused, right? And then I came back to a digital first type of approach to the visual storytelling. And that was exciting, right? Because now it was another dimension added on to the extension of the creative process, and even more opportunities to tell the story in short format and video. And so I was very agile because being a teacher, you have to learn to go with the flow. Ooh, the students teach you early on, you have to be ready to stop at any moment and address teachable like moments that happen and pivot when you can. And so it made me even a stronger art director when I went back to editorial.
Probably made you a stronger mom too, right?
Yes. I was like, exactly. It was good preparedness to be a mom, absolutely. But it was exciting. So I brought with me a more compassion, I think, after teaching in the editorial world, and then definitely I loved collaborating. And as a teacher, you're a little bit, I felt a little siloed, right? You're just in that classroom with the students, you're collaborating with the students, but sometimes I felt isolated from the other faculty. And that's what I embraced that when I came back into the editorial world. All of a sudden that strong collaboration, that team energy was alive and well. And so that I was really jazzed about getting back into that aspect of my life.
At what point did you make the change to move out of New York and come here to the Lehigh Valley? Like, what precipitated that decision?
So I fell in love with a PA boy. And we began riding dirt bikes together and motocross. So again, I was a tomboy early on at an early age, and I fell in love with action sports at a later age. And we thought, well, let's move to Pennsylvania. It's still close enough to Philly. It's still close enough to New York and close enough to my family and his family. And let's buy some land and let's really embrace this beautiful nature out here in the Lehigh Valley, so close to the city, and have a little bit of this, like all the worlds, right? So like I can dip into New York and go hit up a museum and a show, but by the afternoon can be back and be riding dirt bikes in our woods, right, at the same time. So it was a great opportunity to buy in the Lehigh Valley, that's for sure.
That's amazing. And you have one son.
We have one son, and he also, so we all do motocross together, we all ride dirt bikes, and we all snowboard together. So we always check out the local mountains in the Lehigh Valley. So it really is a place for us as a family to take our passion and outside, right? And come together, and we'll go kayaking together in the area too. So we absolutely love that. It's a gem. It really is a gem.
It really is. And I think that it's been fascinating to hear how you have kind of not only made your home here and all the great things but that you have embraced everything about this area. So it's not just like, you got a house and you come back and forth, right? You're like really entrenched in the Lehigh Valley, like living on the land.
Yeah. I know. And I'm a city girl, right? So this is just, I remember my husband's like, all right, so we're going to live in the woods. I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
But yes, I've embraced it. I really, we love our home. It's an oasis. It really is. And so we're very grateful to have it.
Awesome. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about your son and his inspiration behind what you do at Te Hero, and about how we can tell people more about your amazing mission. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, are you looking for a place unlike any other? Well, enjoy the twists and turns of Dorney Park, explore a new world underground at Lost River Caverns, or create colorful memories at the Crayola Experience. Whatever you decide, Discover Lehigh Valley is your source to finding out what's happening in our area. To find a new adventure, check out their website at discoverlehighvalley.com.
Everybody, welcome back to Unscripted with Russo. I am talking to my friend Edith Gutierrez-Hawbaker. Edith, thank you so much for being here. What a journey you have had, coming from Argentina, growing up in Elizabeth, New Jersey, always being sort of the creative, bouncy, energetic, entrepreneurial girl who then ended up going to FIT with a mom who said, go be an artist, go be creative. Then this amazing career in editorial and magazines. Ended up getting your master's in teaching. You taught. I mean, it's just, and you're like a relatively young woman. So I mean, you are not. We're not talking to somebody. If you're not watching this and you're listening, Edith is not 60 something years old. She's not. I don't even know if you're in your 40s. So it's like you're young. You've done a lot. I love it. It's just such an embrace of life.
Well, thank you. So, and I'm happy to say, in 2 weeks, I'll be 45. I'm open with my age. I am
Perfect. All right, good. We're just about the same age. I'm 6 months older than you then. I'll be 46 in December. But still, what an accomplishment. And I love that you've kind of, it sounds like as a child, you had this very kind of carpe diem, seize the day, do the thing with a parent who supported that. And that sort of trailed through your life. Has that always been your mantra? Are you someone who just sort of says yes to things?
Absolutely. Right. And so, and, just if I'm not fearful of taking a chance, right? Because I really do feel like, oh my gosh, we were watching like Lego Masters with my son, and they said it the other day, it's like, failure is not failing, failure is not trying, right? And that I thought was so appropriate. Talk about a teachable moment for your child, right? While you're watching this show. And so, I always say, go for it, right? I mean, the worst that can happen is that you learn something, right? You learn.
Yeah, I always say you're either succeeding or you're learning. I'm not a huge failure person. Although I have a friend who's found a ton of success. She's doing something called failing forward.
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
a really cool concept, right? Like failing forward, because you're at least you're moving forward.
You're moving forward.
I love that. So speaking of taking a risk, tell us a little bit about the story of your son wanting to give back to the Puerto Rican Relief Fund with one of the hurricanes, and how that led to the business you have now.
So there was a pivotal time where I was offered a job back in New York, right? Once we embraced Lehigh Valley, we all settled in, and there was this wonderful opportunity to continue to work as a editorial creative director, but it was back in New York. And we really thought about it as a family, and we just felt like we had really staked our roots here, and we were grounded, and we wanted to stay moving forward. And our son at the time was at a Quaker school, and he had offered to donate the $13 he made at his abuela's garage sale to donate it to Puerto Rico for the hurricane relief fund. And I thought, oh my gosh, his generosity, his philanthropy at 6 inspired me to take a chance once again and say no to this career move and donate and focus my time on giving back to my community and creating artwork and collaborating with other artists to connect and create and contribute to the Latinx community. So
and
that's
one small thing, right? Like, and I don't mean to say small, because what an amazing, I mean, what your son was like 5 or something, right? Was he really young at the time?
6 years old. Yeah, he was 6. I was like, oh, what are you going to do with the $13, papito? And he said, I'm going to donate it to Puerto Rico. I mean, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it made me look inward and ask myself, well, what was I doing for my Latinx community? So I decided to create a collective where a group of artists, we come together, we create, we stand united in celebrating who we are and our culture, and creating then positive messages through art and design and fashion, and putting it out there in the world. And 20% of all of our proceeds will get donated back to organizations that strengthen and advance our communities.
And where can people find you? Like, if they're interested, I know you got some really cool stuff out around voting. So that was really big in 2020, and kind of an awesome way to connect to the community. We loved it. You have like the rainbow concept. There's a lot of sense of pride and, embracing the LGBTQ community and diversity. And I love everything you stand for. And that's how you and I kind of connected, through a common friend.
And so we're, you could find us on Insta, on Te Lo Juro _collective, and then telojurocollective.com is our website where you can buy our products. We do sell at Talle Puertorriqueño in Philadelphia at the Community Arts Center. You can actually find some Te Lo Juro products there. So right now, those are the only stores we're in, and we're looking to expand that now that people are back into shopping in person and more brick and mortar style. But yeah, we want to make sure that we create artwork that is about inclusivity, right? That is about our message, which is like, te lo juro means to promise. And so it's like our belief is to promise to own who you are, honor thyself, honor your culture, and celebrate it. And so I think all the artwork we create, that message is always at the core value of it.
I love that. I think the message is so strong, so necessary, and just is resonating with so many people. And I think it's incredibly important that this one act by your son sparked such a big idea. And so kind of what role does he play now? I mean, is he kind of like, yeah, mom, or is he feeding into it?
Oh my gosh, he's so fantastic. He's always like, so mommy, like he'll say, what can we do now? What are you working on? He'll look at my sketches, right? And he's like, are you going to do another Walter Mercado? Like he totally knows who Walter Mercado is. And he knows about, I had success with the Walter Mercado artwork that I created being featured in the Mucho Mucho Amor documentary on Netflix. And when he saw mommy's like t-shirt design on the TV, he was so excited for me. But he talks to me about the artwork that I'm creating. He'll ask me like, what does that mean? Is that piece of artwork, does that help like social justice? Like he'll know to ask those questions to prompt me, to make sure. I feel like he challenges me a little bit, right? To make sure like, are you creating this artwork for the sake of creating it, or is it purposeful? And how are we giving back? And in turn, everything he does, he always talks about donating and giving back and working with the community.
So I can't wait to see what he grows up to do. I hope I still have a podcast. I might have to come out of retirement just to interview him in 10 or 15 years.
Yeah. So it's so great because in turn, I think he's learning how to be a philanthropist. He's learning about giving back. He's learning about purposeful work, right? And
how are you seeing? So first of all, why is that give back important to you? And why specifically to the Latinx community? And how have you seen that resonate in the Lehigh Valley?
First of all, the amount of nonprofits and wonderful organizations in the Lehigh Valley that you can associate yourself with is a tremendous opportunity for anyone who is looking to give back. And so a big shout out to all the organizations out here, really. And then just the amount of support in the Lehigh Valley. I know that even when I was starting Te Lo Juro Collective, I worked with SCORE in the Lehigh Valley. They connected me with a business mentor. They really helped me set up my business plan to launch this. And so there are great and wonderful opportunities here. And so I'm so grateful for that. And I think it's a chance for all of us to connect too. There's a big Latinx community. Latinos are about like first generation coming here, taking care of one another, having pride in where we come from, but pride in also starting this new opportunity for the next generation, and so forth and so forth. And so I see that happening in the Lehigh Valley, and I see this growth, and I see this opportunity for creativity and a new journey for so many first and second generation Latinx community members here.
Well, I love what you're doing. And I think that our community is so lucky to have you. We're so glad you fell in love with a man from Pennsylvania. And he convinced you to live in the woods. All right. So let me ask you about when you're not out riding dirt bikes, and you're not, heading into the city, and you're not doing art. What do you guys like to do around here? You mentioned a lot of outdoor stuff. Is there anywhere you love to go eat, or an activity you love to do as a family that sort of gets you out and about in the community?
Oh, so we do love mountain biking, right? So that's a big thing. We'll always take our bikes, go on the trails. We love supporting all the small businesses and the restaurants in the Lehigh Valley. We're all about that. We actually also help out just on this. I've helped out a lot of businesses like with their logo and their marketing and everything, just to give back, to really support the entrepreneurial spirit and my entrepreneurs out there in the Lehigh Valley. I will definitely work with them and get them going. But there are a number of restaurants that we love. We love Union and Finch as one of our favorite restaurants.
Ed Hanna was just a guest, and he's so amazing. And of course, we were, I guess, collaborating and discussing our love of New York also. So right away, I was like, yeah, it's just in your soul. He had the same kind of things. Like when I got off that train the first time, it was in my soul.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so great because there's so many, and that's what's beautiful about the Lehigh Valley, is that we're so close to Philadelphia and so close to New York and Brooklyn and New Jersey. And so there's so many people that come from different avenues of those areas. And so you connect with them on that level. You're like, what brought you here? Why are you here? It's like, oh, I have a love for fishing, or I'm an artist and I wanted a barn and a studio, and this was a place where I could create. And everyone has a different story. And it's so wonderful to hear everybody's journey out here.
I totally agree with you. And we're so glad that you are out here, spreading the love of inclusivity and giving back. I think it's so important. So before I let you go, I would like to ask you some rapid fire questions. I want to confirm you have not heard these questions.
Okay. I have not heard these questions, so we'll see.
All right, you ready? What is your favorite hobby or activity?
My favorite hobby or activity, it would be snowboarding. I feel very centered when I am snowboarding. I feel very in tune with my physical self. And so that makes me feel strong. And when I feel strong, I feel more creative.
What is one food you could not live without?
I would have to say tacos. I love me some tacos. I love you. A good salmon, a good fish tacos.
All right. What actress would you cast to play you in a movie about yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. Rosario Dawson.
I love that. That's great. I can totally see it too. If you didn't have the job you have now and you cannot cite a job you've had in the past, what would you be doing instead? What would be a dream job you've never had before?
Working for a nonprofit in the DEI department and focusing on that.
I love it. It is amazing how often the creative entrepreneurial spirits that grace us on this show say that their dream job would be to be giving back in the nonprofit world. It's great. I love that. I love that. Well, Edith Gutierrez-Hawbaker, thank you so much for joining us. Te lo juro. And you can find them, please, all over. Follow them on Instagram. Go to their website. The stuff is awesome. You want to own some of it. And you just want to support a wonderful brand doing great things in our community. So Edith, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much, Ashley. It's been such a wonderful time talking to you and getting to know more about what brought you to this great valley.
It's a fun place to live, I have to say. I love every second of it, and certainly have made it my family's space and our life's work. So it's a good place. We're glad to have
Jersey too, right?
I am, yeah. Just Jersey girls. I'm telling you, we do stick together, but now we're kind of like, we love PA too. I know. I'm saying.
I'll make a cool little bumper sticker. I'm gonna
perfect.
Jersey girls out in PA and Lehigh Valley.
I love that. Let's do that. That could really catch on. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening. This is Unscripted with Russo. Until next time.